Hey everyone, a lot of subscribers have said that they feel like they always win their lane. They outjungle the enemy, they get really fed, but then for some reason they just lose, even if the entire early game went really well. So what exactly are you supposed to do in the mid game to not throw your lead? And when exactly does the mid game even start? In this video we're going to be answering those questions and more as we watch some replays of mid games. We'll start with silver and gradually move our way up the ranks until we get to low diamond, so make sure to keep watching. Even if you aren't in the rank that's being shown at the time, we guarantee that these mistakes happen even in diamond games, so it'll be relevant to you no matter where you are. Let's get right into it. Starting off, we're going to be looking at a replay from silver where we have a Nocturne versus Fiddlesticks matchup. Now would be a pretty decent time to explain when mid-game actually happens. We define mid-game as a time when the first towers begin to fall, and the standard lane assignments that are top, mid, and bot start to lose meaning while people switch around and start putting more people in different lanes. In general, this usually occurs somewhere between the first 12 to 16 minutes on average. At this point, you're usually decently highly leveled, and the value that you get from experience starts to fall off. In the early game, farming and soaking experience is extremely valuable due to the fact that it takes less experience to go from level to level. In other words, 100 experience in the early game matters a lot more than 100 XP in the late game. That doesn't mean that it stops being important, but players are less incentivized to catch every wave with their tower, and instead can begin to prioritize making progress on the map in terms of towers or other objectives. In addition, towers being down means that it takes waves longer to bounce from tower to tower, and this means a larger window where you can leave lane, impact the map, and come back without missing that much. The combination of these things means that overall map play becomes more important. We often talk a lot about prioritizing the early game because it is a very impactful part of the game, but you need to know what to do with your lead once you get it. In this game, Rengar started the mid game by breaking the tower from before. Right after, Nocturne goes bot and a good fight happens for the red team. They clean up 3 kills, get the bot lane outer tower, and push another wave for free. If you were Nocturne right now, what would you do? Once you break the outer towers, it's really important to now try to move your area of control up. By pushing waves, they essentially act as mini wards that cause someone to have to respond. On top of giving vision, if you constantly push waves and no one responds to them, then you'll get towers for free and the enemy bleeds out from missing gold and experience. Even if they do respond, then you're able to move into the jungle and now set up vision and take away camps since you know where they are. Once you push waves, it's really important that you actually do something with it. If you don't, you're essentially just trading farm with the enemy team back and forth, and this just causes your gold lead to mean less and less due to increasing the overall amount of gold in the game, thus causing inflation. Nocturne walks right by the camp that he could be taking away right now and doesn't counter jungle at all. While it may not seem like much, not taking away free opportunities like this will add up, especially if there are multiple camps up or your team is going to be pushing bot tower anyways and they happen to get engaged on because you aren't in the area. Following this play, Nocturne walks mid after clearing his wolves to protect the tower. From here, what would you look to do? In this situation, the enemy team has broken all outer towers and shoved in mid and bot lane. If you remember from before, this means that they have a chance to take control of our bot side jungle now that we have 2 people showing on mid. Because of this, it's impossible to retake vision in our bot side jungle right now, and we really don't have camps up to get anyways. Nocturne should be headed into his top side right now because Zed still hasn't pushed out top wave, and we should feel a bit safer trying to reclaim vision and take our camps there. Or we could walk really far around to get to bot lane and try to defend the tower. However, Nocturne walks into bot side to try and contest the area for little to no reason and ends up getting picked for free. Paying attention to when waves are crashed for both teams and either using them to do something or respecting that the enemy has time to punish you is really important. Let's move on to the next replay. In this game, we've got a gold Skarner versus Kayn. It's about 23 minutes into the game and a couple of outer towers for both teams have fallen. Skarner finds a good pick in his red side jungle, and his team finds another pick onto the enemy ADC. From this point, what would you look to do? Because midwave has been pushed up a bit, we can now use this time to invade onto the enemy topside and take away their camps to set up vision for Baron. As we can clearly see Kennen and Fiora on the minimap, this would be pretty easy to do. This way, we can continue to build our lead over the enemy jungler and stop them from reclaiming Baron vision for free. We could have also potentially just taken the Baron altogether if we keep tabs on the enemy jungler and Kennen. Instead, we make a classic mistake. Running up mid and sieging is the standard ARAM move, but this is Summoner's Rift and we usually want to avoid that at all costs. With easier objectives to take in Baron, enemy jungle camps, or even bot lane tower, we shouldn't be going for the objectives that add the most volatility into the game. We should be spam pinging the Baron and trying to move in for control. Instead, we push mid and most of our team gets picked. Even though this is a mistake, we need to know how to play the rest of the game afterwards. So what should we do now? This is definitely a bit of a harder question, but with dragons spawning, a lot of players are very tempted to contest every single objective, even without numbers. While we can't necessarily fight the enemy team, it doesn't mean that we can't take advantage of their positioning. If all of the enemy team is going to rotate towards bot to get dragon, we could begin working on getting topside vision. Clearing upwards and placing pinks in Baron area could let us look for a pick. At this point in the game, playing on your vision is very important, and making the enemy play off of theirs is of equal value. Going to clear topside vision would force them to have to reward the area, or risk losing the Baron for free, and it's at this point that we could look for another ulti on a high priority target. Knowing when you can't contest a play and just moving on to the next idea will help you avoid digging your hole deeper and eventually throwing the whole game. From the earlier picks, we could have forced this kind of situation much sooner and there would have been little to no risk to us. Being scared of doing Baron is a really common mistake, but most of the time doing Baron is the safe play. Even if you've been burned before from bad Baron throws, it's likely due to the fact that the setup was poor and doesn't mean that Barons in the future are a bad idea. Instead, we try to contest Dragon, even though losing one Drake at this point would be completely meaningless and cause our whole team to die in the fight. While giving up the Dragon wouldn't lose the game, giving up this fight and then losing Baron certainly will. For extra salt in the wound, we lose the Dragon anyways and just make our overall situation 10 times worse. In the previous game with Nocturne, a really similar situation happened as well. In this case, they managed to get the Dragon after winning a teamfight, but are all sitting on a lot of gold. In this scenario, after you get the Dragon, it's really important to just leave. You got what you came for, and staying for another fight that you aren't favored in, both because you haven't bought and your ADC isn't base, is really bad. You don't have to contest everything that the enemy team throws at you, and in general, calling off fights is a really valuable skill that a lot of players lack. When you're going to fight, make sure that it's for a good reason and also on your terms, not just because the enemy team wanted to. Anyways, let's jump into a Platinum replay now to look at some more mistakes. In this game, we've got a Hecarim versus Karthus. After grabbing Rift Herald, Hecarim uses it to take the first tower of the game, dive the enemy top laner, and then break the second tower as well. From here, what should he look to do? Just like earlier, it's really hard to actually keep pushing because the other towers on the map haven't fallen. From here, it's easy to walk into the enemy jungle, take control, take their camps, and start setting up vision to potentially pressure the mid outer in the next couple of plays. Without a wave pushing up mid and keeping someone there, it's pretty difficult to actually continue a siege on top. Don't barrel down a lane unless there's literally no threat from the enemy team. Breaking the inhib at this point would also just technically be bad because you can't really get anything from the pressure, and it would just end up denying you farm and giving gold to the enemy team. Hecarim tries to hit tower anyways and ends up having to blow his ult in the process, lowering his ability to snowball the game with it on his next play, and also missing out on the chance to counter jungle to Karthus. From here he makes another critical mistake. With no ult, no Nocturne ult, Ahri ult, or ults on his bot laners, he's going to recall. Normally recalling is good because it gets you tempo within the game. However, in this case, that tempo really can't be used for anything. There's no Dragon, no Rift, and no playmaking potential until our cooldowns are back up. While some junglers have the tendency to overfarm and not help their team at all, the opposite is also a problem. He runs around aimlessly when he should be farming camps, and by the time his ult is back up again, he hasn't farmed a single camp and is now 2 levels behind the enemy mid, losing them the 1v2. At this point, Karthus has been farming his jungle the entire time and is up roughly 50 CS on Hecarim. If he was able to counter jungle the enemy topside, that would take away 8 CS from Karthus and give Hecarim 8, and if he cleared his other camps, he would have 20 more. This difference in power would have probably let him win this fight, and it's little things like this where you waste tons of time that ends up completely throwing the game. At this point, Nocturne is 5-2 and his bot lane is a combined 2-5. Another critical error that happened here is that he's playing around his losing lanes. All that time he spent bottom getting nothing, he could have made plays around Nocturne and they would have been much more likely to work out. In mid game, you need to identify who's strong on your team and play around them. This will allow you to expand their lead as well as your own and avoid stagnating the game like Hecarim did for the past 2 minutes. If he was willing to play with Nocturne and look for picks with him, they could have easily killed Karthus in the enemy jungle or dove the Yone to take mid tower. For yet another example, let's look at another Hecarim game, this time in Diamond and versus a Taliyah. The enemy Fiora solo kills our top laner for not the first time in this game, and at this point is 11-2, while our Vayne has had a bit of a rough time and is 0-7. After this happens, our Yone moves up to 1v1 the Fiora and miraculously manages to outplay her and win. At the same time, Hecarim is on bot side and looking to set up Dragon. What would you do at this point? We should definitely just let Yone fight 1v1 and farm camps and wait. We're under no pressure or obligation to actually start the Dragon right now. Not only is our side of the map now a 3v4, if Fiora wins the 1v1, we're going to lose our inhib by stalling at Dragon. Once again, it's important to know when to give something up and not just contest every objective. As you can see, even in Diamond, this mistake happens all too often. If we had just waited for Yone to push out, and we just stall at the Dragon by essentially dancing with the enemy team, we're winning. If nothing happens, Yone is taking stuff top lane for free, and it's important that we just let him continue to get advantages, even if it means giving up something that's right in front of us. If the enemy team sent someone to respond to Yone, we could then fight the 3v3, and Vayne could walk to the fight to turn numbers into our favor. By doing the Dragon instead, we are playing right into their hands. Being patient and letting the enemy team have to respond to pressure is really important. Don't create the one window that they need in order to make the play not a complete loss for them. After the Dragon, we respawn and run into topside. Hecarim calls for Baron. Do you think this is a good idea? While there is a possibility that you can sneak this away while TF is bottom, the fact that we all just died means that the enemy likely has vision of it at this point. And the fact that TF has a global ultimate that reveals everyone doesn't make this seem very good either. Without proper setup and pressure, it's really hard to know how to play out the fight that is about to happen. Hecarim is sitting on Rift Herald and could have dropped it in order to make the enemy team have to respond to something. Simultaneously going to clear vision and pushing waves would mean that the enemy has to come from a predictable place instead of just fog of war. The resulting fight is literally the definition of a complete coin flip. In fact, this fight is probably favored for the enemy team from us taking Baron damage, and it's a miracle that both Vayne and Yone are able to pull out the plays that they did in order to win this. In fact, I can't think of anything worse than having to rely on a 0-8 Vayne to win me the game. If I wanted better odds, I'd probably just go play the lottery. Even after all of this, they end up losing the game regardless, but with a couple of different changes, this game was extremely winnable. And if you're serious about truly becoming a better jungler and climbing fast, then check out SkillCapped. It's the best place to improve at League of Legends. We have hundreds of guides just like this one, and we upload tons of new videos to our site each week. If you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using SkillCapped, you can claim a full refund, so there's no risk. That's like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped. We offer this because our service really does work, and if it doesn't, you shouldn't pay for it. And that'll wrap it up for this video. Let us know in the comments below what we highlighted that you think you need to work on the most, and let us know what kinds of content you'd like to see next. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.